Here's your full text, translated into English, keeping the storytelling tone and sequence intact. This is your short captain speaking. Today I'm going to tell you about the film Lolita. Professor Humbert is driving his car along a country road. His car swerves. Humbert's face is covered in blood. On the back seat lies a bloody pistol, and in his hands, a hairpin. This hairpin belongs to the girl he fell madly in love with, the one who ruined his entire life. The roots of this forbidden love go back to the professor's youth. When Humbert was 14, he fell in love with a girl, but she died, leaving an unhealed wound in his soul. Many years later, when Humbert arrived in New England, he thought he had found the cure for his youthful suffering. The professor moved into the house of a widow named Charlotte Hayes for 2 reasons. The house he had planned to live in burned down, and Charlotte had a charming daughter named Lolita, or just Lo. When Humbert saw Lolita, he was struck speechless. He was ready to refuse Charlotte's offer to stay, but then he noticed the young girl under the streams of a garden sprinkler. The half-forgotten youthful love stirred again in his soul. Humbert began making notes in his diary about Lolita and her mother. He wrote frankly, hiding nothing. Charlotte didn't attract him much. More often she irritated him with her shouting and quarrels with her daughter, while little Lo filled him with delight. The girl sensed this and did everything to fan Humbert's burning feelings. However, she had no idea that for her it was just a game. The professor watched Lolita brush her teeth, sneak out at night for a snack, and play in the yard. He tried to spend as much time near her as possible, not noticing that Charlotte herself had fallen for him. Lo told him about her mother's feelings, while asking him to persuade Charlotte to take them to the lake. During the trip, Charlotte told Humbert that Lolita would soon be leaving for summer camp, and from there she would go straight to a girls' boarding school. This news upset Humbert, but the memory of Lolita's farewell stayed with him. Seeing how he watched her, the girl ran into his bedroom, jumped on him, and kissed him passionately. As soon as Lo and her mother left, Humbert buried himself in the girl's clothes in her bedroom. That's when Charlotte's maid found him and handed him a letter from her mistress. In it, Charlotte confessed her desperate love for Humbert and gave him an ultimatum: leave the house if he couldn't reciprocate, or stay if he could. Humbert stayed. Soon, he and Charlotte married. He became the picture of a model husband, but despite the wedding ring, he avoided intimacy with Charlotte at all costs. He used sleeping pills to dodge her, but even then she sometimes woke up and demanded her conjugal rights. After exhausting himself with these marital payments, Humbert went to the doctor to ask for sleeping pills that could knock out an elephant for at least 7 hours. When he returned home, he found Charlotte in tears. She had opened his desk drawer and read his diary entries about Lolita and herself. Realizing the kind of vile man she had let into her home, Charlotte no longer wanted to see him. She began writing a letter to Lolita while Humbert tried to calm her. "You monster," she said. He left for a moment to pour them both some scotch. The phone rang. A strange voice told Humbert that his wife had died. A man's voice told Charlotte, "They killed you." Humbert couldn't believe it. He went to look for her but found no one. She had run out of the house to mail her letters, and in the middle of the street, she was hit by a car. The driver didn't have time to react. Shocked, Humbert took Charlotte's letters and burned them in the fireplace. Then he drove to the camp to pick up Lolita. On the way, he booked a hotel room for 2. He told Lolita that her mother was ill. At the hotel, Lolita met a famous playwright named Claire Quilty, an older man who took an unhealthy interest in the lively girl. The hotel clerk informed Humbert that there were no rooms with 2 beds available, so they'd have to sleep in the same bed. The professor didn't mind. They had dinner and returned to the room. Humbert left Lolita alone so she could get ready for bed and went out onto the terrace, where Quilty started a drunken conversation with him, making lewd hints about Humbert's intentions toward the girl. When Humbert returned, Lolita was already asleep. In the morning, it was Lolita who took the initiative. The girl made it clear that this was not her first time. On the way home, Lolita wanted to call her mother, so Humbert had to tell her the truth. She cried all night after learning of Charlotte's death, but since she had no one else left, she quickly forgave Humbert for hiding it. He took her away from her hometown, and they traveled across the country, staying in roadside motels, spending carefree days together. Lolita behaved like a typical child, while Humbert enjoyed an opportunity few men would ever have. But the idyll didn't last. Humbert decided to enroll Lolita in school. At first all went well, but then he suspected she was hiding something from him. She asked for more pocket money and convinced him to let her act in the school play. The play had been written by none other than Quilty, the same man they'd met at the hotel. Humbert was told that Lolita had skipped several classes. When questioned, she gave a convincing lie, backed by a friend. Humbert suspected she was planning to run away from him, saving up her pocket money for that purpose. They quarreled, and Lolita fled. He searched for her in the pouring rain and finally found her in a cafe, talking to someone on the phone. When they got home, Lolita said she wanted to travel again, but this time she would choose the route. They set off again. Humbert noticed a man following them, making no effort to hide it. At a gas station, he saw Lolita talking to someone, but she said the man had only asked for directions. At another motel, Humbert went out to buy fruit. When he returned, he realized Lolita had gone out while he was away. Consumed by jealousy, he tried to find out who she was seeing, but Lolita only laughed. She knew she had complete power over him. Soon after, Lolita fell ill and had to be taken to the hospital. Humbert was sent home. The next day, the hospital told him that she was feeling better and that her uncle had taken her. Furious, Humbert stormed into the hospital, attacking the doctor to learn who had taken her. But when he saw the police, he calmed down and left. He began visiting every motel they had stayed in, checking guest books, and noting the same handwriting under different names. He realized this was the man who had taken Lolita. Eventually, Humbert understood that Lolita was gone from his life, forever. He returned to his old job, but 3 years later received a letter from her. Lo wrote that she was married and expecting a child. She asked her daddy to send her and her husband a few $100s to help pay off debts. She signed the letter with her married name. Humbert decided to go see her. He practiced shooting his pistol, planning to deal with the man who had stolen her away. Lolita lived in a poor neighborhood on the outskirts of town. A grown young woman with a round belly opened the door. Humbert still saw in her the Lolita he had fallen for years earlier. She invited him in, telling him her husband believed Humbert was her father. She confessed she had always loved only Quilty, but he had kicked her out when she refused to appear in his films with underage girls. Humbert gave her $4,000, telling her she could keep it no matter what. But he needed to know if there was any chance she would come back to him. Lolita told him there was none. "You're insane." While talking, she accidentally mentioned where Quilty lived. After saying goodbye, Humbert drove away, catching one last glimpse of the pregnant woman as the girl she once was. He found Quilty's house, went upstairs, and met the robe-clad owner. Quilty was barely coherent, drugged out of his mind. Humbert sobered him up at gunpoint, wanting him to understand why he was about to be killed. When Quilty regained some clarity, he tried to grab the gun but failed. Then he tried to run, but Humbert shot him several times. Quilty curled up in fear in his bed. That's where Humbert finished him. Covered in blood, Humbert drove away. Police stopped him on the road, but he seemed oblivious to everything, his thoughts only on Lolita. He was imprisoned and later died of a heart attack. Lolita died a few weeks later during childbirth. That's all for today. Subscribe and like if you want more videos like this.